and mercy. Had I not been standing in that man's face to hear what came out of his mouth next, I would never have believed it. This unbaptized pagan who literally tore our family apart looked me in the face with all seriousness and said, "The Blessed Mother and Divine Mercy." I was stunned. I literally could not speak. My brother to this day still mocks me. Man, when Pop said that, Jesus, and the look on your face. So now I go back to Oregon. My mom is living with us because when she got sick and I left the monastery, that began a slow but steady 20-year decline in her health, to the point where she could no longer live on her own, so we moved her out to Oregon with us. So I go home. Is it real, son? Is it real? I said, Mommy, you can't fake what I saw. So now I'm talking to my dad about maybe once a month. Then he calls me, Memorial Day weekend, "Son, I want to come to Oregon. I want to see my grandkids." "Okay, when can you come?" "This weekend in June." I'm like, "Oh, Pop, that's not a great weekend for me, kid. That's the only weekend I can come, so I'm coming." "Great. I got a problem. I told the kids he was dead." So I did what any intelligent man would do in my situation. I went to my wife and said, "How do I get out of this?" And without missing a beat, my wife said, "Well, Jesus did raise the dead, didn't he?" And so I think Claire's 20, I think she was 9 back then. So I got up, kids, guess what? America! Oh my goodness, they were so excited to meet their one and only grandfather. So they took their school pictures, they got the heads blown up real big, and they put it on, they made a poster with their pictures. "Welcome to Oregon, Grandpa Pop." I picked them up from PDX, brought them home, and they met my wife for the first time, and his grandkid. And so what ties all together is music. Kevin is an amazing singer. He was in the Glee Club at Notre Dame. I played in the jazz band and in the gospel choir. So music, my wife was in the Oregon Youth Symphony. We are a huge musical family. And so Claire sits down, she's 9, she starts playing the piano. My father sees my guitar in the corner, picks up my guitar, and they start playing. I'm like, am I in the Twilight Zone? Two universes are colliding in my living room. That's amazing. There's a number of things that happened that weekend I only focus on 2. There was a men's conference that weekend in Portland. I was not speaking, but I was planning on going to support the guys, because even Deacon Harold needs to be fed. I said, "Pop, you want to go?" He said, "Yeah, let's go." He's never been to anything Catholic in his life. He goes to the men's conference. And he's impressed, about 300 guys, 350. And, they're praising and worshiping and all this kind of. He's like, "Hey, this is pretty good." And who was the speaker that year? Father Donald Calloway. So Father Calloway and I saw Father Butler. Father Calloway and I we text each other or talking every week. We're really good friends. So at this conference, now this is when his first book came out, his conversion story. So he's telling his story, and he gets to the part where he's doing the drugs and the gangs and the women and all this stuff. And my father leans over, he goes, "That guy's a priest?" I'm like, "Yeah, Pop." And then he keeps going to Father Calloway about how he got caught by the Japanese military police and put on a plane in Japan and said, "You are never allowed to come back to this country again." My father, "He's worse than me." I said, "I don't know what to tell you, Pop." Then Father Calloway gets to the part of the story where everything changed for him. Who did he have an encounter with? Mary. As soon as he talked about that, my father reaches across the table and grabs my arm and shakes my arm. "Mary, son!" "Mary." I said, "I know, Pop." He goes, "I have to meet him." I said, "Okay, Pop." So Father Calloway finishes, and I go up there, I greet Father Calloway, I say, "Hey, Father, this is my dad. He goes, oh, he goes, this is first time at something Catholic, and I kind of goes, oh, really? So there's a lot of people waiting for Father Calloway to sign the book, and he's in the corner talking to my dad about Mary. I'm like, is this nuts or what? This is crazy. So the conference goes, we leave the conference, we're going home. My father wants to take us out to dinner. I said, my mom never was living with us, but the week before my father came, she had a bout of congestive heart failure. So she was at a convalescent facility about a mile from our house. So on the way home, I said, oh, Pop. I said, let me drop you home. So I want to go see Mommy before the visiting hours are over. Then I'll come out and we can go to dinner. He said, no, let's go see your mom. Okay. My mom had not seen him for 20 years. So we drive, we go by the place, we go in. I don't have time to call my mom first, so I said, okay, hold on, let me go in first, Pop. So I walked in, there's my mom in the bed, I walk around, I sit down on the bed, I lean over, give my mom a kiss. I said, Mommy. And in walks my father. And the look on my mother's face was shock and surprise and joy and anger and everything. I mean, some of you old enough to remember Marty Feldman. Remember from Young Frankenstein, the guy with the eyes bulging out? My mom's eyes look like that. So I get up from the bed. My father walks around. He sat down where I sat. He had these big hands. And he put his hands over my mother's hands. Hello, Eleanor. And they start talking. And I leave the room, because it ain't my business. So I'm at the nurse's station thinking, this ain't going to take long. Right? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. They're still in there. Now I'm getting worried. This is the longest time my parents have ever been alone in a room without yelling or something being thrown. Half an hour later, my father comes out. Okay, son, let's go. I'm like, okay. So I go in, and I go to kiss my mom goodbye. She goes, who was that? I'm like, I know. I'm getting used to this too. I have no idea to this very day what they talked about that night. No clue. Here's what I know. 2 months after that, my mom, because we have a mother-in-law suite on our house. So I would come home from work, go and check on my mom, and then I'd walk her over to our, because she's permanently disabled by then. So I'd walk over to our side of the house, and we'd have dinner as a family. So I went in to check on her, and she goes, son, sit down. Okay, what's going on? Remember when you moved out here what I asked you to do? Yeah, you asked me to pray for Pop, and I told you no. She said, starting on that day, I started praying the rosary every day with the sole intention of reconciling with your father before I die. She goes, that's what happened when he was in the hospital room with me that night. Wait, Mommy, what are you telling me right now? You're telling me the day that I drove west, over 20 years ago, you started praying a rosary for Pop? Yes! And you didn't stop? No! Mommy, what happened after year 5? After year 10? After year 15? Mommy, 20 years? Yes! I don't have faith like that. And my mom never took her wedding ring off, by the way. She died. And a month later, after I had the conversation, she was dead. She never took her ring off. She died with it on. Because she believed that the Lord would be faithful to her. Now, the last day my father was there, that weekend happened to be Father's Day weekend. And I preach every Sunday in my parish on Father's Day. So here I am at Immaculate Heart Catholic Church in Portland, Oregon, in June 2009, And I'm seeing my father in church for the first time in my life. I get up to the ambo, I read the gospel, and I have my homily prepared. And I looked at my dad, and I just said, I literally tore the homily up in the ambo. And all I said was, this is the first time I'm seeing my father in church. Everybody was like, that's an interesting story. And I started to tell a little bit about the story, how we got to this day. People were crying. People were clapping. Some people even screamed with joy. And my father starts crying. It was powerful. And that began the healing process for us. But it was far from over. Because one weekend can't take away 40 years of crap. So before I continue with his story, let me just say it's probably true that every single person sitting in this church right now has in some way been hurt by somebody that they love. And as we sit here tonight, we are still bound and oppressed by the feelings of anger and hatred, and sadness, and disappointment because of what they did to us. But Jesus wants to give us peace. He says in John chapter 14, my peace I give to you, my peace I leave you. Not as the world gives, do I give it to you. So how do we find the peace when we're living with things like an abusive ex-husband? You remember him, the guy who beat the hell out of you because he was drunk, or maybe just because he felt like it. Maybe your spouse cheated on you, and you went to the counselor, and you went to Retrovide, and now you're back together again, but in the back of your mind, you're asking yourself, can I really ever trust her again? Maybe some of you are sitting here right now, fighting not to take another drink. Maybe you were raped when you were in college. You had a little bit too much to drink, and he took advantage of you. Maybe you were the rapist. Maybe you were bullied when you were a kid. You were the fat kid, or the black kid. You had glasses. You had braces. Your family was poor. And you still feel that sting today. Maybe you tried to kill yourself. The pain was just too intense. And the only way you felt you can get rid of it is to end your own life. Maybe you're estranged from your children right now. Your heart is breaking because your children are away from the church and not practicing their faith. Maybe you're angry all the time. You know the anger I'm talking about, where you want to punch your wife in the face and you stop yourself and go, whoa, where did that come from? Maybe you're depressed and you're popping those pills and you're seeing the counselor. And it just doesn't seem to help. Maybe you're in pain all the time. You woke up this morning in pain. You are in pain right now. You're going to go to bed tonight in pain. You're going to wake up tomorrow in pain. How do you begin to find the healing that God wants to give you in your life? I'm going to walk you through 4 steps that I did in the healing process with my father. Now, what I'm going to share with you tonight is not easy. Why? Because those 4 steps are the last steps that he took before he went on the cross. That wasn't easy. Step number one, do not suppress the memory of what happened to you. See, as human beings, as a defense mechanism, we believe like if I just don't think about it, if I just pretend it didn't happen, then it never happened. Don't ever do that. Because it will come back to bite you hard. Let me give you a real life example. Again, when I was still active in the parish, I was in the parish, I left to go home. I was halfway home, the secretary calls. Hey, some guy just called. He sounds really upset. He was crying. He says he needs to talk to you. Is he a parishioner? No. But he says he has to talk to you. Okay, I'm on my way back. So I flipped the car around, went back to Immaculate Heart. I'm waiting in the parlor. And this guy shows up. I've never seen him before. I don't know who he is. And he comes in and goes, she's going to call the police. It's going to change the locks. I'll never see my kids again. Whoa, hold on. Stop. Sit down. Take a deep breath. Tell me what's going on. And he tells me, his wife been married for 10 years. They have 2 kids, a son and a daughter. He's a stay-at-home dad because his wife is a very successful attorney in Portland. So the arrangement is this. She goes to work, he takes care of the kids, keeps the house clean, all that kind of stuff. And to that, well, that's kind of weird. Well, hold on. I've got friends, Abby Johnson, that's the case. Leah Darrow, they're out doing their thing, and their husband's like, hey, that, it happens. Good. I got a sense he was a good guy. Before his wife came